Hello, my energetic and committed tribe, and welcome to Rewoke, Rewriting Our Kids' Education Podcast. My name is Michelle Person, and we are on a journey to change the face of education. We are rethinking, re-examining, and re-educating ourselves and our children. Last week, we talked about what it means to be woke in reading class. This week, we follow the natural progression of things, and we are going to explore what it means to be woke in writing. Can good writing really be taught? We will explore that question today with our guest, Levonne Gigger, from the great state of Georgia. She was introduced to a system that we should all be using, the DOT system, and she is going to tell us more about it today. In the words of James Baldwin, read, read, read. Never stop reading. And when you can't read anymore, write. So tell me, are you woke? Writing gives voice to our inner thoughts and allows us to share them. It has often been said that the best way to improve someone's reading is to have them write. Writing focuses on phonics, comprehension, mechanics. It has students developing their voice and how they can communicate that voice to others. I can tell you that though it might be the best way to create better readers, it is not the easiest. It might be the best way to create better readers, but whenever I would say, okay, class, take out your writing journals, the groans were audible. Eyes were rolled, teeth were sucked. My kids hated writing, but they had to write. Each year, standardized tests are putting more and more emphasis on writing. And not just personal narrative writing, where you can make up a story or summarize a chapter and pass. No. Students these days are expected to read two separate texts, form an idea about what they read, and then defend that idea, citing examples from both texts as early as third grade. If you cannot write, you do not pass the end of the year state assessment, period. We could do a whole separate podcast on whether or not I believe that particular requirement is grade level appropriate. Spoiler alert, I don't. But unfortunately, in traditional public schools right now, that is the reality and the model that we have. The most frustrating part for me is that no one seems to ever want to talk about the fact that we tend to write how we speak. Why is that important, you might ask? Well, one, we know our Black and brown babies don't always speak the Queen's English, and that's strike one. Number two, we can only write as well as we read. So given that our Black and brown babies on average also read 1 to 2 grade levels behind their peers, writing becomes even more burdensome. So how do we do it? How do we make sure our children are able to express themselves fully and adequately? My guest today is here to explain how she does it and give us a few tips. Levonne, it is great to see you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule down there in Georgia for talking to us today.
No problem. I am honored to be invited.
We were talking before we got started about the writing system that you stumbled across and were introduced to that helps get kids engaged and really understand and grasp the different elements of the writing system. And I cannot wait for you to share all of that. But before we dive into that, can you tell the listeners a little bit more about you, who you are, your background?
So my name is Levonne. I'm originally from Kansas. I've been here in Georgia just over 13 years. I'm a mother of 3. I'm a dancer, but I'm passionate about education as well. This is my 8th year in education. My 5.5, 6 years going into teaching 4th grade. I've also done 2nd grade. And I've done a combination of being departmentalized and self-contained.
That's funny. I love it. 2nd and 4th grade, ironically, like we're sister, and like, you know, we have sister spirits. 4th and 2nd grade were the 2 grades. I taught everything, but I spent most of my time in 2nd and 4th. And that's funny too, because that's perfect for the question I'm about to ask you first. Second grade is when you really transition into really, first grade is really more about getting a sentence out, like being very specific, maybe writing one full sentence with correct capitalization at a period. Second grade is when you start to introduce the idea of a paragraph, meaning you're going to organize your thoughts, you're going to plan. Fourth grade is actually when they expect you to kind of be working on revising that process so that you can be considered a fluent writer for fifth, sixth, and seventh grade. So you've actually seen people in both areas, really, really beginning and where they should actually be like refining their craft. So that being said, my question to you is, what does good writing instruction look like? If you're instructing, and does it matter whether or not you're instructing somebody beginning the process or somebody who really has a good grasp? What does good writing instruction look like?
Well, for me, good writing instruction, as well as all instruction, has to be fun. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it, okay? But with writing instruction, what I've learned from my mentor is that you must include a lot of verbal language. I agree with the school of thought that says if you can speak it, you can write it. So we must get scholars to practice speaking well so that they will write what they say. In my own experience, you will see improvements by leaps and bounds. So we practice what we're going to write, saying it out loud, and you have them get up. And so, like, for example, with the topic sentence in my second graders, we gave them 3 topic starters for their paragraph. Let me tell you about, would you like me to tell you about, there are many things about. And so we were going to write about our favorite our favorite type of chips. And so they had to pick which one of those starters they like. And they have to go to the people in a structured way. All right, 1, 2, 3, find a partner, Mm-hmm. Let me tell you about why my favorite chips are Ruffles, cheddar, cheese, and onion, whatever it is. And then they'll go to somebody else and they say it 3 or 4 times before we ever get the paper out. Do you know your sentence, everyone? You have said this verbally about 5 times. Now we're going to sit down and best believe they're going to be sitting there like, they're going to sit there and they're going to write exactly what they're thinking in their head.
I love that. That's a great tip. So I usually ask for 3 tips that you should be doing that engage specifically Black and Brown learners. First of all, that tip would work with anybody, I think. But I definitely think that like you said, that is fun, that they will want to do that. And if you start your writing lessons off like that, they are automatically going to be engaged. And then the second point is, most of our kids are not people who sit and get, right? They have to do. They are kinesthetic. So if you're adding to right away to the whole writing process a kinesthetic aspect to it. They're getting up and they're going to do something. And then you're adding the oral tradition, which is such a rich part of the history for Black and Brown kids. They get to talk. Like our kids love to talk. So they get to so then for me, if you introduce writing that way, when you say get out your writing journals, and
they're like, yay.
So the first strategy that I heard you talk about obviously is adding speaking, but to writing before they start to write. Are there any other tips you have that you think teachers should be doing if they are going to be trying to engage their learners, primarily Black and Brown learners? What else should they be doing besides making it fun, obviously, and also making sure they're integrating opportunities for them to talk to each other? What other tidbits, what other nuggets can you rain on us today?
Do not be afraid of popular culture. So last year and the year before, period poo was like the thing to say. And so I was like, oh, I'm taking that. Period poo. And they are yelling. And listen, you see them sitting there writing. Like you'll see them say it. And I don't care, even if they say it out loud. I bet you my sentences have an ending punctuation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So even if it's not a period, if we have the period and now we can go back and correct, like, oh, now were you asking a question?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I was asking a question. But if we could just start by getting punctuation at the end of sentences, I know any teacher like, oh, no, there's not one. Look, as adults, have you scrolled Facebook lately?
Right.
whole think pieces with not one piece of
Not one.
I can't do it. I can't function. But we can start that by engaging in the culture.
Yeah,
how they hear people speaking at home, and we're not going to make them feel bad because Miss Gigger speaks like that at home too. For our young learners, we can bridge something that they're hearing at home as normal and commonplace, and take that into this is how we can connect it academically.
We have spoken to a lot of educators as we were in production to do this show and some of our other episodes that will be coming out this season. And that is something that I have heard over and over again. Make it relevant for them, like, because that is how they feel. That's where they get their sense of comfort. And once they get that sense of comfort, that's when they will begin to, you'll see performance levels increase, so like, I love that piece of information there. So make sure it's culturally relevant and create a safe space for them to do that. I love that tip.
And I have my third one for you.
Oh, you got a third one for me? Okay.
My third one is music. Always the music. Always the music. So I start my classes. I'm teaching social studies, 4th grade this year, and I am still incorporating writing, but the music always wins.
So when you say the music, do you mean playing it in the background, using it at, studying the lyrics? What do you mean when you say the music?
No, we're referencing it. We're singing it. So I do accelerated vocabulary, and so I'll pick an instrumental that the kids probably know. Right now, we're doing the box. So like one of the kids, like, this was my first week of school, so these kids don't know me and my system. I'm introducing it, and I have my mic, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna say the word first, and when I point the mic to you, you're unmuting and you're saying it after me. But honey, one of these boys, he was yeah, he was in it. He was in it before he even knew what we were gonna say, and we're like, standard of living, economic choices, and we try to get on beat. As we get through the year, we'll get on beat. Right now, we're not on beat. But it's just fun. They're reading the words. It's accelerated because what I am doing is I'm teaching them the words before they will encounter it in the actual reading text.
And you're teaching them the words to the instrumental version of a song that they are familiar with.
That they already know. And then the following week, I will define the words, and I'll use gifts, funny gifts that they may have seen on their mama's phone, or videos, pictures, whatever. My Bitmoji is a hit, doing all kinds of silly things, whatever it takes for them to understand the meaning of that word. And then they will read the word in their textbook, and they're like, ooh, I'll hear the specialization. They'll say it the way that I said it in my cadence, their pentameter. So that's one way.
Building those, but we talk all the time about building those bridges. You are building those bridges. Thank you so much for the work you are doing, because it's important work, and you would be surprised once you build those bridges where they will go. You just have to build that bridge. So that's great.
Thank you. And it doesn't feel like work. I'm having fun.
And that's what school should be. School should be fun. Now, tell me about this fun writing system that you stumbled across that we should all be using, because like I mentioned before you and I came on, my kids hated writing 100%. They got better at it. We offered some choice. I tried to introduce it in small chunks, but it was nothing. They did not love it. And I don't know that any person who's not just a writer will actually ever love it, but I wanted to not hear them suck their teeth every time I said take out your writing journals. So you have stumbled across a system that they might not end up loving it, but they feel comfortable with it and they don't hate it, which is key. So tell us about the system that you found.
Yes, the DOT system. I must first give credit where credit is due. The wonderful genius, as I call him, Tony Ford, came up with this DOT system, or introduced it to the staff where I was working at the time. And it was funny because it was very similar to something that I thought I created on my own. I had created this color-coded writing system when I was teaching 4th grade informational writing. But Mr. Ford's version expanded from K through 5, And it also took into account, narrative, informational, and persuasive writing. So number one, I found it through Tony Ford. Shout out to him.
Okay.
And so now it's with me forever. I'm taking it everywhere and I'm sharing it because it works. So when I was using it, I was teaching second grade. So basically what it does, it gives the kids a structure of what to always expect. It's not going to be new just because you're writing about something new. With the second one, so I'll focus on second grade. You will always have your red dot, which is your topic, your orange, yellow, and green, which are 3 details about your subject matter, and then your blue dot, which is your conclusion or your closing.
Okay.
And then within each of those dots, you have 4 bulleted points that I remember to do, the capitalization and the punctuation and what is the function in each of those sentences.
Okay.
So it creates this stability that is like, oh, wait a minute, now I'm doing persuasive writing. It's different now, it changed. No, it didn't. You still need a topic, 3 sentences in the middle, and a closing sentence.
I like that. So basically, you get them brainstorming orally, like we talked about at the very beginning. So they've got the ideas in their head, and then they've got a framework they can take the ideas, the thoughts, and put them on paper in an order that makes logical sense, which is what we all want. Okay. How long does it take the kids usually to grasp this?
So we were working in a low performing school. So what we created was that the dot system should take about 10 to 14 days in second grade because you're only writing 1 sentence per day. We're only going to make you write 1 sentence per day. Now, when you get this to kids who are performing on level, it's magical. It's magically delicious, like Lucky Charms. Oh my gosh, like the kids just flow. So you can, when you're getting with on-level students, you probably could produce a quality piece of paper writing in 1 week. Okay. Because day 1 is a graphic organizer, and the graphic organizer is color-coded just like the dot. And then you have your graphic organizer is done. And so like I said, what we do is we do a different part of the organizer. Then you get into a rough draft based on the organizer. So you literally take from the organizer and you write it down into your rough draft. And we even use the color pencils or crayons so that they can color code as they write in your rough draft. And then, of course, the rough draft is done, and then you go into the editing process. So that may take 2 days if we're now talking about on level, 2 days of editing, depending on how intense you want that editing to be. And then, of course, then you write your final draft, and you'll do that, either typed or written, and give them a nice piece of stock or letterhead to put it on and add pictures and whatnot. They're so proud to display it. Okay.
Now, tell me, in your experience, I obviously, as an administrator, I know as a former teacher, you have a bunch of kids in your class. Some will be on level, some will be below level, some will be all the way over here. In your opinion, using the system, how long would it take somebody who might be a grade level or 2 below to be able to produce a grade level piece of writing? And also, if you have somebody who's on level, because differentiation is always key, how good is this system, in your opinion, at taking somebody who is on level and helping them expand?
So that's a beautiful thing because it's already set up for K through 5. So you may need to, in that differentiation piece, you may need to give the struggling writer the grade level below standards, and you're giving them their dot system and giving them different goals to hit. Yeah, okay. It may depend, especially if it's an IEP, their goals may be totally different than the class anyway. Okay. And then of course with the gifted or the high performing, then you push them. If I had a 4th grader, I would give them the 5th grade dot system and challenge them. All right, now there are some things that they're doing in the 5th grade level writing. I want you to incorporate this.
I like that. I like that you have the rubric set up so that it's by grade level, so you can kind of gauge where your kids are all in the same classroom and give them the level that works for them. That's always a great help when you have those differentiated tools in the classroom.
Because once they've mastered it, they feel that success.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that success. They're like, look, I did it. I capitalized the letter. I had my ending punctuation. I told the main idea, and they're able to tell you the parts of this sentence that they wrote. And now you get to add on. Okay, well, can you tell me more? Can you give me another sentence? That detail doesn't have to be one detailed sentence. You can add 2 detailed sentences within your yellow dot. So now your yellow dot has 2 sentences instead of just one.
How can parents support this type of work at home? What can they be doing to make sure that they are continuing at home the work that you're doing in the classroom?
Being very verbal. This sounds really silly, but talk to your children. Talk to them and let them explain anything to you that they know well. They know Roblox and Fortnite. Let me tell you about how to play Fortnite. First comma, you pick an avatar. Next comma, you do this. Finally, comma, you do that.
Right.
And in conclusion, you can become a great Fortnite player like me.
Right. But let them talk. But yeah, just let them talk to you about it.
Let them talk to you about anything that they are an expert on.
Parents, I hope you heard that. You don't have to do anything extra. Just let them ramble. And if you let them ramble, you're helping them put thoughts together, and you are helping them to become better writers. Levonne, can you tell us right now, are there any free resources out there? And obviously, if there's a way for our listeners to get this dot system, like if they can find it online, reach out to somebody to get a copy, what resources do you recommend? How can we find this dot system?
You can definitely follow me and send me an inbox, and I will definitely send you a copy of the dot system. Now, in order to contact me, you have to first decide to support my other business. I am a dance instructor as well. So that is Sophistatwerk, because I'm a sophisticated woman.
Okay.
But I like to twerk a little bit on the side. So Sophistatwerk, SOPHISTITWERK. That is on Instagram and Facebook. And you can at me anywhere and send me an inbox, and I will go ahead and send you a copy of the dot system. But you can go ahead and schedule your class for some relaxation.
Yes, absolutely.
So everything is fun with me. Fun fitness. We are going to get this cardio workout that's not going to feel like a workout, just like writing is not going to feel like writing.
Yes, right. And I was just going to say, like, you have to, after you spend a long day at your job and then you listen to your child talk about writing to help them become a better human being, do something for you. Go twerk. Go do something. Absolutely.
But I always recommend, if teachers have not heard of Teachers Pay Teachers, please get on Teachers Pay Teachers. I have a couple of items on there with Venn diagrams. I have some addition and subtraction raps that I wrote on there about, like I said, music is always key for me. So Teachers Pay Teachers. Khan Academy is excellent. I know a lot of us know Khan Academy for math, but they have a lot of ELA that is being expanded on Khan Academy, which is free.
Okay. All of those are great tips. Parents, all of those informational pieces will be included in the show notes after this episode is over. So don't feel like you had to be writing it all down while you're listening. Levonne, I want to thank you so much for being here with us and talking to us about this great writing system that you found and these great insights on just how to make writing more enjoyable for our kids. So, because they have to do it. That's the sad part, is like, they have to do it. There's no kid that's going to be able to pass any state test if you go to a traditional public education school. You can't pass what you need to pass if you can't write well. They don't allow it anymore. So thank you for these tips on how we can get our kids excited about writing, and even if they might not ever love it, they at least won't hate it. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Let your kids talk. Let them talk before they write. Let them talk when they come home from school so they can practice putting ideas out there into the world. I love that tip. I want to thank our guest, Miss Levonne Gigger, for coming by and sharing those nuggets with us today. Show notes, resources, and links to all the things we've mentioned are available on our website, www.justlikemepresents.com. Make sure you hit subscribe and share this podcast with other parents and educators in your circle. Visit us on Facebook at Just Like Me Presents join our group, and share writing tips that you might have. Next week, we are leaving the world of language arts and we are going to explore best practices in math. What does woke math look like? And why do so many of our students struggle? Thanks for listening. And remember, if our children can see it, they can achieve it.